This is the JasmyCoin one-year overview reading for the year of 2024. It's currently January 7th, 2024, 6:27 p.m. Eastern Time. JasmyCoin at the time of this reading, 0.005054, just over half of a cent USD. And the shuffle video that we're about to play for you for the JasmyCoin 2024 reading was created on December 12th, 2023 at 2:40 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video here in the left lower corner. So the overall theme and behavior for JasmyCoin in 2024 is going to be price swings, usually on the scale of a one-year chart when you see Dominion as the theme card. Those price swings are often bullish, but it could be just like straight sideways price swings. And it's very similar kind of what we were seeing for a lot of the 2024 readings, back and forth, back and forth. That back and forth price swinging behavior throughout the year, it's crossed with a significant drop. The universe card is like the largest decline card in the deck, so we should see at least one notable decline on I'd say a multi-year scale. It'll stand out because it's going to stand out on a one-year chart scale. Behavior around the highest high, we have a decline, a failure basically. We have a decline through multiple support levels off of the high or highs, and then behavior around the lowest low or lows. We have a U-shaped dip that forms near the intersection of two perpendicular diagonal trend lines. So usually what you see is like a peak, and then the low in the center, and then another peak. So two peaks and then the trough in the middle. Before we go any further, I want to make sure everybody's aware that the whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that with your help by following the rule of karma for the channel. We put out most of this content for free with the expectation that people are following through on the rule of karma. You go to the resource tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and donate 5% of the profits made off of this information forward to one of these charities here, or pick a charity of your choosing. Just make sure to pay 5% forward, and then 5% back to the channel through one of these links. It leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, the universe considers you an angel investor of the channel for following through on the rule of karma. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's get back into it. When reading a one-year SO meta reading, it's important to understand that each card going left to right, these like cards that are side by side going left to right, those represent about 2 weeks of time. And one cluster of 4 cards represents the information for a month out of the year. So we go January, February, March across, and then July, August, September, all the way back down to December. It's all labeled. What's important to understand is that not each card's energy on the timeline will line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time, or it may not. Sometimes it does, but it may not. In a case where it doesn't line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time, it's important to understand we have to give the timing plus or minus 2 weeks of wiggle room in some cases. So the way to stay on track is to make sure that you follow the sequence of events as outlined in the prediction. That will remain on track even when we're in the midst of like a little plus or minus timing here or there, which in a lot of cases doesn't even happen. But when it does, pay attention to that sequence of events, my friends. All right, so let's get into it. There's a period of sideways rotation. Matter of fact, there's a sharp drop in early January that stands out in a period of sideways rotation along a key support level, and there's the visiting of a support level that we recently met. So probably a support level that we just saw towards like the end of 2023. All right, so there's that sharp drop, and that takes us to a prominent trough on a one-year chart scale, which forms when we have like there'll be price swings near the low as well, and that low will form after a peak that forms when we have a sharp drop off of the peak. It'll take us into the low. Behavior around the high for the month of January, we have a sideways fluctuating rally that precedes a decline, and then the later part of January, we have a crest that we sell off from on a multi-day scale crest that we sell off from down to and through a support on a multi-day scale, and then we do a U-shaped reversal, come back and reuse that price level as support. It looks like we're back at a trough on the cusp of January and February, maybe early in February. That'll form off of a crest again. It'll be like a near overbought crest that we sell off from, an important price level on like a one-year chart scale that will stand out near the February high, and there'll be a sharp drop off of either a sharp drop into the low in the early February on like a unicursal kind of scale, or a sharp drop off of the high of February. I think it's probably a sharp drop off of the high of February, and what we'll do in the later part of February is rally into a key resistance and then decline with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down into like a trough there in early March. It looks like February's low forms when we have a prominent move higher through key resistance. We stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through it with a full retracement back down to the trough. So we see the low probably on both sides of February, it looks like. Early March, we have this failed attempt to break through key resistance, followed by a decline through key support. What's important about that key resistance is that it's going to, technicals will lead us to believe that we're going to break through that key resistance, or there's some like real strong expectation of breaking through and going higher. Instead, we turn around and we disappointed, we decline through key support. Trough probably the second week of March, a big move out of that trough even in the face of seemingly overwhelming headwinds or negative chart behavior, and then we have like bearish price swings in the later part of March, probably back into another trough, or a big drop back to a trough there on the cusp of March, or like the end of March I should say. And it's an important range at the March high. It's an important range on a one-year chart scale that's going to stand out, and it looks like we're bound by that range. I think that March high and that February high are probably kind of like blended together. And there's a trade opportunity in early January, a trade opportunity mid-January on the cusp of February, and then again in March, twice in March. And I'm going to talk about that stuff in more detail in the paid version. There's a crest that forms, or a near overbought crest that forms, like the very beginning of April. We push the upper end of a range higher there on a multi-day scale, and then there's a notable reversal at the April high. Erratic behavior back and forth through the same price level around the April low, and it looks like that April low will take place like on the cusp. Actually, it looks like that April low probably happens more than once, because it's like that erratic behavior back and forth through the same price level. But the later part of of April, we're rallying out of a significant low on a one-year chart scale. We're rallying, increasing with momentum moving forward out of the month of April and into May, where in May we have this prominent move higher in the early part of May, followed by a full retracement still in the early part of May. I think that prominent move higher is kind of like blended with the April rally out of the low, and then we come back probably to that low there in mid-April. So it's like a full big move higher, full retracement. We attempt to establish support near the May high, but there's a significant decline on a multi-day scale off of the May high, and there's a resistance in the later part of May that that's highlighted that we've seen many times before and failed to break through many times before. Behavior around the May low, we have 3 pokes through the same trend line, usually horizontal, but not always. It looks like we have 3 pokes through the same trend line. It's an important trend line on a multi-day scale or standing out on a one-year chart scale. And off of that third poke, we should have a significant decline. I think those 3 pokes are probably through that important resistance that we failed to break through many times there in the later part of May. Trough towards the later part of May, and then another trough like on the cusp of May, June, where we're doing sideways rotation in early June. Okay, so it looks like the decline into the June low is a continuation of the decline out of May. And then we have like the sideways rotation in the early part of June at the low, and that sideways rotation ends with a fast sudden move higher, taking us to an important price level that access support, at least in around the high of June. It access support, and it's an important price level on like a multi-year scale. It ends up acting as resistance in the later part of June, and there's a trade opportunity there as well. I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. Guys, there's so much valuable information in the paid version. It's really a great way to support the channel. The reason why we do a public and a paid is because I want to make sure that people who can't afford it benefit. But even the paid stuff, guys, is so inexpensive in considering what it is that you're getting. You're getting information that cannot and will not ever be found anywhere but this channel, because it came from 23 years of me figuring out, flipping a card, looking at the stock chart, flipping a card by the hour, looking at the stock chart for years on end, my friends. And trial and error and trading on this information, you know, so it's important to understand the kind of edge that you can have if you understand what to do with this information. And it just occurred to me, I just had something pop up on my screen I want to show you guys. This was back in 2010, and this isn't my best score, 96.35 percentile. I have another one on here that doesn't have my face, that's 98.88 percentile. That's in the world, using only tarot cards, guys. This was the last $1 million portfolio challenge. They stopped doing it because they ended this competition early. The top 1% was cheating. So think about that for a second. I was 98.88. If you tip the top 1% out, I was 99.88 percentile in the world using only tarot, and that was the early stages of the system that is now ESO meta-analysis. So great way to support the channel. I know the names of everybody that supports the channel with this type of paid information, because they really that goes a long way to keep us being able to put out this content. So you get the best trades, the timing of the best trades that we see, what trades to avoid, you get what type of chart behavior to look for on a multi-day scale as far as entry and exit into those trades. If there's price level information that we're able to extrapolate both in like relative to each other's price levels in relation to each other, as well as actual numbers that we might extrapolate, all of that's in the paid version. And then the overall performance of JASMY versus the Bitcoin in the year of 2024. You get it here on our website, Tarot for Traders, at our services. Hover over our services, click on ESO Meta Posts, scroll down to 1 year report, click here to order. You specify the year that you're interested in us predicting, and then you put in a crypto symbol or ticker symbol. If it's crypto or stock, please specify, guys, because sometimes there's a symbol for both. And that'll get you an order within 3 weeks, basically the same information that we're going through now, plus all of the paid information. Great way to support the channel. Again, you won't find it anywhere else, guys. It's severely undervalued or underpriced, specifically so that I can support the channel and I can survive, but also give the little guy a significant edge. We're not right all the time, we're right most of the time. So trade accordingly. And thank you again, my friends. Let's get back into it. All right, so it looks like that high, or the June high, is probably right on the cusp of June, July, or maybe in early July, really. It forms after first establishing sideways rotation, establishing support, which looks like it takes place in June. And then there's a big move higher, standing out on a 1 year chart scale, followed by sideways rotation at a higher price level. And it looks like that's probably early. The higher price level with the sideways rotation is probably here in early July, where we have this important price level we break through at least momentarily. There's price swings near the July high in a period of rallying along a diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance, meeting a second resistance, and then pulling back to somewhere between those two price levels as a chart behavior around the July high. But there's also price swings in there, and it looks like there's 2 peaks by the middle part of July. There's already been 2 peaks, and then there's a trough, an important trough on a 1 year chart scale towards the end of July, where we're doing sideways rotation again along a key support level on a 1 year chart scale near the low. The low forms after a decline through multiple support levels on a 1 year chart scale, and then we're doing sideways fluidity in early August, equal amounts of bulls and bears inflow and outflow, until it looks like there's both a peak and a crest mid-month in August. But it looks like off of the crest there's a really notable move to the downside. I'm advised not to chase that move to the downside. I'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. And then out of that trough mid-month in August, there's this big move to the upside, back to another peak. Behavior around the August high, big move higher, standing out on a 1 year chart scale, offering opportunity. I'll talk about in paid version. Behavior around the August low, period of volatility on a multi-day scale with a sharp drop that stands out in that period of volatility. And again, I'm advised not to chase a sharp drop in the earlier part of the month, or early to mid part of the month, not to chase that sharp drop. And I'll talk about that again in more detail in the paid version. Trade opportunity in early September in a period of volatility that ends with a fast sudden move higher, taking us to an important resistance level on a 1 year chart scale. That resistance level has a lot of trade opportunity around it. Again, I'll talk about in the paid version. It's an important price level on a multi-year scale there in the later part of September. And off of the September low, we have a rally that will really stand out. A September low, probably mid-September. An important peak on a one-year chart scale there on the cusp, or the later part of September, or on the cusp of September, October. Off of that peak on the cusp of September, October, we have a decline into a notable decline into the earlier part of October. But then out of that, we have like out of oversold territory, a big move to the upside, taking us back to a peak or crest on a one-year chart scale, where that big move higher will really stand out on a one-year chart scale. And trade opportunity there. Multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance in the later part of October, and the October low also, like the later part of October, it forms when we have a decline through multiple supports. First, we decline to and through support. We meet another support on a multi-day scale, and then we bounce around that for a bit before breaking down through multiple supports into a sharp drop that takes us into the October low towards the end of the October. Another crest mid-October, November, like right on the cusp at a really strong resistance level, and there's a near overbought crest in early November that we sell off from for multiple support levels. The behavior around the November low, we have a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast sudden move higher, and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line taking us into the low. It'll increase with volatility moving into the low, but then out of the low, we have this big move higher, reaching for a distant resistance. There's a breakout on a multi-day scale, and behavior around the high for the month of November is bumping along sideways along resistance, maybe breaking through resistance and bumping along sideways some more. Early December, we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance on a multi-day scale, followed by a decline through key support, taking us into a low, a prominent low, and hard to say where in December it is, probably early December, and we probably see it more than once, like probably see it twice based on the mixed behavior around the December low. Behavior around the high, we have a lot of volatility near the high and a lot of price change covering important resistance levels highlighted at the December high on a one-year chart scale, and there's also a sharp drop that'll stand out on a multi-day scale or on a one-year chart scale off of the December high. It looks like the December high is probably towards the later part of December, and out of it there's a sharp drop to and through support on a multi-day scale, we meet another support, and then we rotate sideways along that support into 2025. Sneak preview for 2025, big move standing out on a multi-year scale, reaching for a distant resistance there. We'll talk about that in more detail in the 10-year, the multi-year reading for JASMY that's coming out relatively soon. Look out for that, as well as in the 2025 if we do decide to do that. But that's JASMY for 2024. Thank you, my friends, so much for supporting the channel. As always, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go. You know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version.